that safety is the most important for all involved. Today is going to be another difficult day based on the information that we've been provided by the IMT about fire behavior and weather. We know that people want to know about their properties, family, and friends. We know many of you listened to the unfolding events of last night and recognize that there are losses. As we make those assessments at the county level, we will notify those affected property owners. It needs to be safe for us to do so, so please be patient. Thank you.
So next I would like to ask the Town of Grand Lake Mayor, Steve Kudron, to address the community.
Thank you, Kate. We know that historic buildings and businesses are on the people's minds, and we just don't have confirmed information at this time. Many of the buildings and the establishments, they are the heart and soul of our community. As soon as we know something definitive, we'll share with those who are affected and the community. Moving around is difficult, and as the sheriff said, there's increased first responder traffic and closures. Please give the first responders room to operate, and you can check them on the road closures at cotrip.org.
Next, I would like to ask our Grand County Commissioner, Richard Cimino, to come and make some comments to the community.
My messages are for those who have evacuated. If you are in need of sheltering or any other assistance, please report to the Inn at Silver Creek. The Inn at Silver Creek is in Granby. It's right across the highway from City Market. Volunteers are there at the Inn of Silver Creek to assist you. You need to go to the building that's behind the main hotel. There's a parking lot in the back. Go to the back parking lot and you'll find them. If you have evacuated and you have shelter, you can help us. If you would please go online, go to the county website, and fill out the evacuation form. This helps us track our residents and work towards re-entry. It also helps law enforcement personnel so they can identify the people that did evacuate. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to mention that we are reporting out from the middle school in Granby, and so that was the school bell, and just a reminder that our schools in the East Grand School District are closed today. So next I'd like to ask our Grand County Commissioner and our board chair, Kristen Manguso, to make some comments.
Okay, you guys, we know, we're very well aware that Grand County is made up of wonderful, generous people, and we are very, very thankful to everybody for that. We also know that people want to help. They want to provide assistance to the firefighters, our first responders, and we are working on the proper channels to help people provide that assistance. So there'll be more information coming out on that. That should happen later on today at some time. So we're going to have to eventually move forward from this. This is a great tragedy. We're aware of it. And we're going to have to pull together like we always do in Grand County. We do pull together. We are grand, and we are going to heal from this. We're going to help people get over this, and we just need to pull together while we face these challenges. I just want to tell everybody, remember, we are grand. We will come together through this, and we're going to need everybody's help, and we thank everybody.
I want to thank our leadership for their remarks today. We are now going to move into the question and answer session. We do have several people that are going to be available for questions. The Pacific Northwest team is going to facilitate that question and answer session. I do want to mention that if you are not able to get your questions answered today, we do have several resources available to you. One of those is an information hotline that has been set up, and that phone number is 970-725-3803, and we have a lot of people that have volunteered their time to help us answer questions and answer those phones today, so thank you. You can also go online to ncweb.gov. That is INCIweb.gov, and you can search for the East Troublesome Fire to get more information, and they're keeping that website very up to date. So I just want to go over the folks who are available to answer questions during this session. That's going to be the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forest Supervisor Monty Williams, as well as our Grand County Sheriff Brett Schroetlin, and members of the Pacific Northwest team. Again, thank you for listening this morning, and we are here for you. Thank you. We are Grand.
Thank you, Kate. Also want to let you know that we have representatives from the National Park Service, Naaman Horn, who's in public affairs, as well as Mary Beth Peacock with BLM. So if there's any questions regarding those landscapes, we'll have them come forward as well. And Noel and Sheriff, if you can get close here, so we'll get you up here. All right, so let's entertain some questions from the media first, and if you guys have any, please. Yes, ma'am. I will hand that off to the sheriff. It was injuries to life or property, people.
Great question, McKenna. That question's become very popular, obviously, in the last few days, or a couple days here. So, as of right now, we know that there are structures lost. Everyone in this room knows that. My staff and I know that. To the extent of what those structure loss is, I have no idea. Right now, we're really focusing on life safety. That's super important. We know we're about to face an extreme fire day again. Our guys are actually working on trying to get more people out of their houses up there. So that helps us move on to the next steps if we can get the community to self-evacuate on their own. At this point, no injuries, no deaths, lots of structure loss, very honest.
If you could speak from more of a historical perspective, is this one of the worst fires that this community has ever seen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been the sheriff here for about 6 years, been in the county for about 18 years. You know, we had the Silver Creek fire in 2018, which was about 20,000 acres. We obviously have the Williams Fork fire that's currently burning now. It's about 14 or 15,000 acres. We had a couple thousand Churches Park fire back in, 2010, give or take. All of those, were 20,000 or less. So 100,000 acres in one day is obviously a big increase for us.
You're talking about continuing to get people out of their homes right now. Are those people in an evacuation area that are still not out of their homes?
Yep.
Can you talk about the specific areas?
Yes, ma'am. So that is basically the entire corridor of Highway 34 on the map here, all the way including the town of Grand Lake, and then this entire corridor of Highway 125. So unfortunately, we did have people in both of those areas that chose not to evacuate. Our deputies really tried to encourage those people, but we also tried to save as many lives as possible. And so we have that conversation with them, and then we have to continue moving on down the road to save as many lives as possible during these short evacuation times.
What's the current status of Grand Lake right now, as far as the fire, the fire line?
So I drove the Grand Lake area about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. Fire had not actually reached the city limits of the town of Grand Lake. I cruised most of the roads up there, and the fire had not reached the town limits. We are seeing it in some outlying subdivisions, but as far as the town itself, we did not see any spots, any structure loss or anything like that within the town limits.
Any chance that it'll connect with the Camera Peak fire?
I'm going to defer that to the IC when he gets up here. I'm going to let him answer that.
I know you said people in Granby, pre-evacuation orders. We saw last night, it really exploded. Are you guys expecting, for the people in Granby, obviously they should be ready to go at any time, but is there that increase of readiness, especially when we go into the evening hours?
I think based on the fire behavior that we saw yesterday, we have to be prepared. And I want to make sure that our community is prepared for that, which is why we're having this discussion this morning and letting those people know that we have some concern. I think that a pre-evacuation notice is exactly that, it's my message to the public that we do have some concern and that we need them to be prepared. And so we don't know what to expect. And based on what we saw yesterday, I felt like we were ahead of the curve yesterday. I will stand up here and tell you that every day, but I still think that we need to make sure that we're even farther ahead of that curve today.
Any idea how many people or homes have been evacuated so far?
I don't actually have that information right now. We're in the thousands up there. A lot of those are multi-unit structures. So I'm going to let the incident commander talk about that. As far as the team aspect of the resources that they've ordered, I can tell you that all of our partner agencies, Larimer, Route, Eagle, Summit, basically everyone surrounding us, I don't have an exact list, sent law enforcement resources to us last night. And so as our local police, fire, EMS, and search and rescue people entered in the community, we were immediately being backfilled with emergent response from our surrounding communities. And that just shows the partnerships that we have with these following communities. And I think we had close to 20 or 25 officers within an hour and a half window there that helped us with some areas. Yes, sir.
You have air assets in the air at this time.
I'm going to pass that to the incident commander as well, since that falls under.
You submitted a disaster declaration.
I'm going to pass that off to Kate, our county manager. I'll let her answer that one.
Yes, in response to the question, we do have an emergency declaration in place for the East Troublesome Fire. Our Board of County Commissioners did make that declaration last Tuesday, just a few days ago, and I also wanted to let you know we do have a disaster declaration for the Williams Fork Fire that has been ongoing. That fire is also in our community, so thank you for the question.
I just want to make sure if there's any other questions from the media before we move on to questions from the general public.
I think she had a question about the troublesome fire connected to the Cameron Peak fire.
Okay. Question was about connecting the two fires.
So, is there potential? Yes. The fire has moved up onto the Rocky Mountain National Park and has burned up to, take this off so you can hear me a little better, has burned up to, essentially I'll call it timberline. We may have some spot fires that we're trying to assess as to whether they got over the top. Once you get on the east side of the crest, there is continuous fuels, then again down toward the valley floor. And given the winds this time of year and the way those winds are acting, if fire were to become established and we're not able to slow it down, there is potential that those two fires could merge. So I am in communication with the incident commander on Cameron Peak, so we are talking about that potential as well as with the sheriff's office on that side of the ridge to make sure that we could coordinate any necessary evacuations should those become needed.
As far as the growth that we saw yesterday, is it possible that we see some growth like that? Was that just something extraordinary? Do you guys feel like you have a better containment now that we might see more of a progressive, normal, I guess, increase as far as something so dramatic?
I would say, in answer to your question, yes, that is a potential. In fact, it's predicted. As I mentioned today, we have nearly an identical condition in terms of dryness. We have actually stronger winds forecast out of the northwest. Our primary concern from that fire spread perspective then may be something coming in this direction. We do not have any containment across this side of the fire. We're in a point protection mode. Now, some things are different as you look at this map. From this point down, particularly down into the Granby area and the Hot Sulphur Springs area, the fuels change significantly to a sage and a grass model. While fire can move very rapidly through those, it's also much easier to suppress. And it's more accessible to our resources, whether that's engines or dozers or crews. So we do anticipate this fire to push us today. We also anticipate a higher probability of being successful at checking fire spread where that occurs in this area. In the continuous fuels where the fire is established out into the park, and particularly to the east side of the lakes, again, those fuels, as I mentioned, are continuous, same conditions as yesterday, but stronger winds. I anticipate significant fire growth. On the north side of the fire, we have no containment at this point. That's up on the national forest, up in the timber. Again, I'm expecting additional fire growth, particularly this morning with the southwesterly flow, which is pushing fire this way. With the cold front passage, the winds are going to come back around and be pushing things in this direction. That would slow growth to the north this afternoon. But another very active fire day.
One question I think I came from back here is as far as help. Is more help coming in? And what does that look like?
We have placed orders actually for a number of days, and particularly yesterday as we started to see this evolve in bringing in particularly structure protection resources. Those orders are getting filled. we're working currently under what's called an area command model in Colorado. So there's an organization that's overseeing, I believe it's 7 fires now, including Cameron Peak and a number of others in the area. They are coordinating resources and moving resources to the high priority areas. Troublesome Creek is the #1 priority right now, based upon what it did yesterday, the impact it had on community, and the potential for today. So anything that becomes available is getting pushed our direction. So we are starting to see help move in our direction. That said, the system is at capacity with all of the fires in Colorado right now, as well as across the western states. And given the period that we are in the fire season, which is a challenge for us as well in terms of resource capacity.
Do you have air assets in the air at this time?
Thank you very much for coming back to that question. Yes, we do. And one of our challenges has been the wind. So we can fly, I'll start with helicopters. We can fly helicopters up until we hit about a 30-knot wind. We've been hitting that every afternoon, and we'll hit it again today, in fact, exceed it. So we're focusing on aviation support first thing in the morning as soon as we can get up, as long as smoke is not impacting our capacity to see. We're also looking at trying to get fixed wing in retardant planes with retardant as soon as we can. Again, based upon the wind and based upon areas that they can drop. So we're trying to use all of that resource.
Does this map mimic